The Schoolism winter sale is here. Save over 30% on a 1-year subscription until January 12th.
Hey everybody, Nathan Fowkes here, and it's our final segment for smashing through that wall. The wall to get to that professional level of artistic ability that we want so badly, but is so very difficult to do. So in this series, we've been working on ways to get our daily calisthenics, our artistic calisthenics. Your physical calisthenics are none of my business. It's up to you. But artistic calisthenics, the habits that we foster every single day that are necessary to break through that wall. And without them, it just won't happen. So let's make it happen here. So when we last joined forces, I promised to tell about an interesting phone call I got from Disney. And so I did. I got a call from Disney and they said, you know, we've got this show. We're doing what we think is a fun project. We're doing a movie. It's a prequel, the story of how Captain Hook became Captain Hook. And we know that you've had experience color scripting, and we need someone to do that for us on this project. Do you have availability? Can you do that? Well, I did have some availability coming up. And I told them that I could do it. And that was true. I had a lot of experience color scripting, but in this way. I had worked on many animated movies over the years, all of these except for Raya and the Last Dragon, which came later. But in all of these movies, I did paintings and color keys that were contributed to the color script. They were a part of it. But I had only done the color script for one movie all by myself. And that movie was The Legend of Puss in Boots. So I did an initial color script of individual panels, and I worked all that out and got it approved. And then they were looking for kind of just a blended narrative version to give an overall feel. And so I did that pass on it as well. And so I did have a lot of color script experience. But only this one all by myself. But the answer is always yes. I can do that for you if you've done the preparation. Well, in this series, I've been going on and on and on about all of my preparation, my daily studies, my daily practice, and that's the whole point. All of that extra work made it possible for me to say yes to these new opportunities. So I did. I said yes. And so on this project then, here's my color script. And I hope you can see I'm fighting as hard as I can to find the range, to find the different moods, the high points, the low points, the mystery, the sadness, the excitement. But first, let me just mention the platform where I teach my online classes if you want to learn how to do this. If you want to learn how to do narrative storytelling and all the other things that I've talked about in this series, my series of classes is here on Schoolism.com. Self-study at your own pace. It's convenient there for you when you need it. Very affordable, very low cost, and I try and make sure that I have the topics there for you that will help you create the opportunities as well. So these images, we had to do them very fast. And let me tell you about fast, because as we're kind of negotiating, they're talking to me, checking in if I'm really the right person to do this job. They said something kind of horrifying. They said, okay, yes, we're Disney and we have a lot of great artists here, but the reason we're looking for somebody and looking for somebody right now is that we had some staff on the project, but the story, as happens, went into rewrites and it needed several weeks to be worked out. And so the team of artists was moved on to a different project and they're set on that. And so now, Nathan, it's up to you. And production designer Fred Wouter, an extraordinary artist that I was working with on this project, it was up to us. And so they said, we're not able to move the deadline of when the movie needs to be in the can, despite the rewrites. And so that means you'll need to do somewhere in the range of 30 of these color keys per week. Now, I don't know if that sounds like a lot to you. I don't know if that sounds like a little or how that sounds, but how that sounds to me is a lot. And depending on the approach and depending on what they ask for or what they need, it can be brutal, if not downright impossible. but I went ahead and said, sure, I can do that, believing I could figure out a way. Not because I have some kind of innate cleverness, but because I had done this. I had done color comps, somewhere in the range of 10,000 of them. So I believed that experience would let me find a way to do the speed that I needed to. And so we did studies like this, banged these out, but tried to tell the story and have a good time with it, get some naturalism, get some magic, get some storytelling in there. They're loose, they're quick. And so we would go through and we would do keyframes. And then once we had the keyframes approved as color keys, then we'd kind of fill out and do the in-between scenes. And we did one of these color keys for nearly every single scene in the entire movie, but I'll just go through and show you these sequence keyframes. And I do want you to note, what's required in this business is range, storytelling range, being able to hit the appropriate emotion for the storytelling. And so that's what was required, and that's what I did my very best to do. Okay, so that put me on the path where exactly I wanted to be. This is what I wanted to do. I never wanted to be a production designer. I never wanted to be a director. I never wanted to go up the ladder above and outside the point of being a hands-on artist who was doing paintings every single day. This is the top of the ladder for me. My goal was to do visual development art and to do color scripting. And so here we are at another color script I did for Wonder Park, a Paramount animation. And if you want to take a closer look at this, it's on my website, nathanfowkes.com. I have a bunch of stuff stacked up over there. You can take a look if you want to. But what we have to do now then is we've got to talk composition for a few minutes, because composition is the final on our list. So let's do it. Let me show you this piece of work, a beautiful composition and beautiful oil painting by the artist Mian Situ. I invite you to check out his work. I think you'll really love it. Let's do a little analysis of this composition. So it has a very strong and clear composition. He's taking you to a destination, and he's using elements in it. The creeks bring you right around to the main event. And the main event, this rider is wearing orange that lets him pop. These horses, they have that white right on their snout. Not all horses have that, of course, but he chose to have that so that it would really pop and pull you to this moment. This is ultimately what the painting is all about. It's about a beautiful environment. It's about beautiful brushstrokes. It's about really exciting clouds. It's about a lot of things, but more than anything else, it's about bringing you to these Native American riders here. And so the composition then, as we just saw, is carefully crafted to do that. Big balancing element over on the left-hand side, counterbalancing element over here on the right, along with that cloud, and then these lead-ins and these contrasts bringing you right to the main event. So you might say, oh, that's great, Nathan. I admire the painting also. I think it's really amazing. I like it. But, I don't imagine myself putting on cowboy boots and going off to Jackson Hole, Wyoming to sell, cowboy paintings. No, I'm an animation artist with an influence on the amazing stylistic approaches that were happening in the 1950s with artists like Mary Blair. That's what kind of an artist I am, you might say. Because this Mary Blair painting is a completely different animal than the Mian Situ art. But is it a different animal compositionally? It, in fact, is not. It's the same painting. It is. Here's what I mean. This one has those lead-ins that bring you to a high contrast focal area, the big balancing element to the left, the counterbalancing element to the right. All the exact same things are here. The lead-in that takes you to the high contrast point of interest, the big balancing elements on the left, the secondary balancing element on the right. Even, there's these kind of sticks right here that are a nice little lead-in and balance, kind of a foreground thing. And this has that same thing right here. It's exactly the same composition. I mean, my gosh, was Mian Situ studying Mary Blair to do this painting? The concept of it is so similar. Well, of course not. I mean, almost certainly not. It's because we're all human beings, and the same kinds of things work. The same principles, regardless of the style or subject that we're working in. Composition is universal, and it's powerful. And whatever work you do, you don't have to do work like me. And yet the compositional principles that I used, that Mary Blair used, that me and C2 uses, they're principles that you can employ right now. So I want to encourage you to do two things. First of all, seek out those principles of composition. This is just one talk, and I can't try to cram every single thing into it. You already know about my full composition course that's available over at Schoolism. You're welcome to check that out, but go somewhere and seek out study on composition. And my second tip for you that I'd like you to start doing right now, in your own way, once again, you don't have to do it the same way that I do, but keep a constant sketchbook. In the same way that I'm encouraging you to do the daily studies, the daily practice. Well, me, I'm a sketchbook nut. You can see it right here. Everywhere I go in the world, I go into the local shops and art stores and try and find weird sketchbooks and with interesting paper and just have a great time with it. And I do this kind of a thing. And what I mostly do is I just use an ordinary, commonly obtained Moleskine sketchbook, and I use a black Prismacolor pencil. And it's the little pocket-size sketchbook. I take my colored pencil, I break it in half, and then I sharpen it so that it'll fit in the little pouch that's in the back of this book. And I sharpen both sides of these chips of colored pencil because you know how pencil you're working along and then the tip breaks off. Well, remember how we're talking about not allowing any impediments? Oh, you know, I want to do my little comps, but my pencil broke and I'm out at the shop having my car repaired and I can't keep sketching because my pencil broke. Well, I sharpen both sides of the pencil and I have 2 or 3 of those little pieces in there. So I have 4 to 6 pencil tips. There's no possibility I'm going to run out of an ability to do my sketches. So I do these constantly. I do them the same way that I've been encouraging you to do. Master studies, meaning just doing a little comp of any image that you come across that you admire. Sketches from life and doing personal studies from your imagination. That's what these are as well. Just over and over and over, sketch after sketch after sketch. I'm very kind of shape and tonal driven. And it's useful, but you might be a little bit more line-driven than I am. Whatever works for you, whatever it is. But sketch after sketch after sketch, you know, same as my color sketches, all day, every day until the sun goes out, you know, by the thousands. And you know what starts to happen? You actually develop a muscle memory for composition. And when there are difficult compositional problems to solve, well, if you've done a couple thousand of these, you've probably hit similar problems within all of those thousands, and you have solutions at your fingertip to bring to your professional challenges. So speaking of which, let me share with you a challenge that came on the movie Shrek Forever After. So I was the very first artist on Shrek Forever After. In fact, they threw me into kind of a downstairs basement office all by myself. They threw a script at me and said, all right, sketch boy, come up with something, because I was the very first artist on the show, and the rest of the people were finishing up Shrek 3. They were up at San Francisco Bay Area. The director was still up there. No one else was around to be seen. I was on my own. And so, my gosh, you know, what do you do? Well, I did what I always do. I just started doodling. I made my notes. I came up with the central purpose. Remember, we've said purpose, purpose, purpose. The purpose drives the color, the composition, the rendering. And then I start doing my little doodles, my little ideas. Now, these are only meant for me. They're not necessarily going to make any sense to the director. They're just to get the ball rolling. But I can do these very quickly. And I can bang out 10 of these in a very short period of time. Well, 9 of the 10, they're going to help me find ideas and kind of help me just think through the ideas, but they won't necessarily be ultimately useful. But out of the 10, one of them will be. and I can throw out the other 9 because they didn't take that long anyway. I haven't lost any time, and I can pick the one that has the best kernel of an idea. And then I can take that, in this case it was this one. And so on the basis of this little kernel of an idea, I worked it out and worked it out and worked it out and came to our finish. The very first piece of concept art that was done for Shrek Forever After. So there was a whole process to get from here to here. So I don't mean to hold anything back from you. I think this makes the point, but if you do want to see the entire process of developing the initial ideas for environments and concepts for Shrek Forever After, and all of the steps, the demo of getting from here to here, I do have that in my Schoolism environment design course. But that was it. And it was these little teeny practice studies that I had done by the thousands that once again created a really nice opportunity for me. So these sketchbooks then, remember we have this idea, enjoyable, rewarding, convenient. That's how we make sure that we get all of this practice done. We won't keep the habits. The habits won't last long enough and intensely and consistently enough if we don't enjoy the process. So these little sketchbooks, I do enjoy it. At the same time, I keep them laying around everywhere I am. Right now I'm sitting in my home studio and they're everywhere. And if I also have an office at a studio that I'm working for in town, I have a handful of them laying around there. I have a few of them laying around in the car. I carry them around in my pocket. That way, they're so convenient and right there in front of me, there's no excuses. And so I'm always getting the mileage that will prepare me for the next opportunity. So that process, that repetition, leads to refinement of our abilities, which ultimately leads to mastery of our craft. That's what we're going for here. Through this process, our subject, and then how we choose to present the subject based on the quality of purpose. And that's what allows us to smash through that wall. So remember, it's that umbrella, and that's the biggest thing. I mean, we know that rendering is important, we know color is important, we know composition is important, and I hope I've really pushed the idea of every stroke you make lending itself to the purpose of your artwork. But the theme of this talk has been that overarching umbrella of enjoyable, rewarding, and convenient. Without fail, always finding a way to make that happen. If that doesn't happen, the opportunities don't happen. That umbrella allows the ultimate mastery, and that umbrella keeps us out of the rain. The rain where those sad, disappointed people that kind of sort of wanted to be artists, but they never found their way to develop that artistic musculature, that artistic strength that is required. The strength that's required to smash through that wall. So that's my talk. I hope this has been helpful for you. So as always, I want to wish you the very best. Much success to you.